Welcome to the FF Forge. I'm Steve, and today we will be going through the front three picks in the draft. Picks 1, 2, and 3. I just recorded an intro, still had my Invisalign in, spoke too much while I went over a draft that I did with my own rankings coming into this. So I think I may ultra cut that into something right about now. I used my rankings. Basically, my rankings do suggest lightly to take a wide receiver first, and I do think that there are a lot of benefits to it, assuming you're correct on getting like the number one wide receiver is can be a huge advantage that you can't find elsewhere, and it's a lot safer than running back advantages. So starting off, took the number one wide receiver on my board, Justin Jefferson. Followed that up with Keenan Allen. Just stuck with the strong wide receiver. That's kind of my strategy if you go wide receiver first pick. Strengthen that and get a couple of wide receivers. Zig while everybody else is zagging. Got back-to-back picks. Took Michael Pittman over Mark Andrews. Was basically the other option that I was really looking at there. But I wanted to see what would happen if I went three wide receivers strong. Ezekiel Elliott was really the other top pick at running back, but have him in a tier with a lot of other guys. So tier-wise, it made sense to grab Michael Pittman because Keenan Allen and Michael Pittman had in as the last two wide receivers in their own tier. Then went running back strong. Got Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce. I actually have Dameon Pierce ranked higher than a few of these. It just helps as far as prep goes, knowing, hey, I can take a guy like A.J. Dillon now and still get some guys who I may have in a higher tier. Passing up on Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. I think he's next in my rankings, was the big decision there at that 4-5 turn. Coming around to the 6-7 turn, I have, I guess I got back-to-back. So I ended up going Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce. They were up the last of a tier for running backs. And with those four running backs, I feel confident that I have a good floor and potential ceiling starter. Should get plenty of time. We all know the upside with A.J. Dillon. Miles Sanders, starter, a little bit injured. That was the main concern with my decision here to just take two running backs. So then Dameon Pierce, somebody who, like I said, I have ranked higher than them actually anyways. And starter. It should be up there as far as rushing attempts, as long as that offense can move the ball a little bit. Followed that up coming around the next turn with Dak Prescott. So that was another decision. I could have gone with a running back like Chase Edmonds. I just think that's a committee. I don't think he gives me anything more than what I'm getting from these four guys. So decided to pass up on a Chase Edmonds or a Melvin Gordon there. Just didn't see them bringing any more upside to my team. Just felt like getting more of the same. Followed that up with Tyler Lockett, somebody who I have ranked much higher than where I got him. So happy to bring in a potentially high-end backup wide receiver. Do I trust how highly I have him ranked? A little bit scary. So we come around, we get another guy who I have quite highly ranked compared to where he goes. Still got him in that range of where he goes. Brought in, I think, some good upside. Potentially could open up one of these guys to be used in a trade down the road. So, of course, at this point, I'm starting to think tight end. There's Zach Ertz, TJ Hawkinson was the name, but I have Albert O down here ranked higher than TJ. However, I would have drafted TJ if I took a tight end right there. And I'm thinking I'm possibly going to go two tight ends or two quarterbacks at this point. I'm not too sure. So, yeah, took Rachaad White, was looking between him and Tyler Algier. And right here, you can see all those upside type wide receivers just getting nabbed up. In Rachaad White and Tyler Algier, I feel that I gave myself good upside while having maybe a little bit of a floor even. I do believe that there's news out for Rachaad White. That's good news in terms of him coming in and taking some of the workload from Lenny Fournette, which is what I had projected, what I thought was going to happen, and then wasn't so sure about it because there wasn't much news coming out of camp. But ESPN, I believe, had an article that came out just yesterday with all the taking a beat reporter from each team talking about their backfields and what they're kind of projecting at this point. And Rachaad White was expected to take some of the carries and pass work on that offense. Wonderful offense to have, and if Lenny Fournette gets injured, I think he's a starting running back. Same with Algier. I expect him to have a role as a starting true running back in that offense, probably right out of the gate, maybe not. But if that's not true, if a Cordero Patterson were to get injured, which probably isn't highly unlikely if he has a lot of work like he did last year, then Algier comes right in on a team that we expect to be a better offense than last year at least, which should be enough to give me some sort of decent floor if I don't have that from anybody else at the running back position. Follow that up finally with a tight end. Once again, just loving that floor. I think I have a lot of advantage right here that I'm working with on a week in and week out basis. So I took the solid option compared to my upside option there. It was between him and Alberto. Then nabbed up the number one defense in my rankings. That led to a decision I had. Did I want to take Alberto as a second tight end? Well, given that I got Dawson Knox, I feel comfortable throwing him out there week in and week out. If I am wrong on Alberto, there's a decent chance that it doesn't necessarily hurt me a whole lot outside of, could have had a better tight end. But the team that he's on, it's going to be hard for him to find the field unless he really, really blows up. So I don't think it hurts my team missing out on that. Where you get a guy like Trevor Lawrence, there's some concern for me with Dallas. I have Matt Stafford ranked higher than Dak Prescott, but just kind of went with the consensus on that one. Just figuring I moved Stafford up a fair amount in my own projections, so maybe I moved him up a little too much. Whatever the case. Cowboys, a lot of injuries have been happening on that offensive side of the ball for them. Not a sure thing that Dak has some sort of another great year. So Trevor Lawrence, all the upside in the world. Finish it off with the kicker. So all in all, I don't mind this team for passing up on a running back at the number one position. I'm not too afraid of my number one pick getting injured and leaving my team high and dry, even if that does happen. Still think I have two that could fit in. I think I have one, maybe two, three, depending on matchups or just down the road during the season. Extra running backs that could fill in at the flex position. We're back to me. And in this draft, we will be drafting from the first position to start out with. Snake draft, half PPR. That is what we will be working in. 7 bench spots. That's just what they set out. Wide receiver, running back, tight end. 2 wide receiver, 2 running back. If I had more experience in 3 wide receiver leagues, I would venture into that. But this close to draft season, I just haven't had much of a chance to mock as I've been getting everything set up for the website, for this YouTube page. So it is what it is. One thing that I like is just keeping these all clicked. Sometimes I'll add pre-draft rankings in there. A lot of fun things that you can do with the Fantasy Pros mock draft. I'm not being sponsored. They're not sponsoring for this. I'm not getting paid to have this on here. But I do like it. There are other platforms out there that are great as well. There's definitely some drawbacks to this platform. They could make their ADP windows a little bit smaller. That would be helpful. And we will start out not using my rankings. I do have some sheets for my running backs and wide receivers at least to refer to a little bit. All right. So to start off the draft, we have the number one pick. Christian McCaffrey is my number one RB. So easy pickings there. I'm going to have to increase this in the future to include some of these this information. You know what? Let me make this recording bigger. Be right back. Picking up with the second pick here, I prefer to work off of the cheat sheets a little bit. We'll go with a more traditional draft style. We'll take Tyreek Hill. There is just more upside if he were to be a top 3 type wide receiver. Definitely has that in him. We know that. So we will go with Tyreek Hill to give us a safer floor at the wide receiver position. And I think we'll kind of go with a hero RB strategy on this draft from the number 1 spot. That feels about right. Now the question is, we look here, do we expect someone to make it around? Let's find out. If we take a tight end, no. I think this is a position in the draft where we can find some nice value right here with A.J. Dillon. So let's get ourselves a solid RB2, and we know that injuries are an issue for running back, so I do not mind going strong, bit of a tier drop off. Why don't we just find out how much we can push? Let's switch up our strategy a little bit and go hero wide receiver-ish. So it looks like there are 3 wide receivers that still made it from that other tier. Tight ends got zapped a little bit there between the 5th and 6th round. Few quarterbacks. Quarterback here would not be a bad idea. Do not mind the upside of a Jalen Hurts. Is it much better than the upside of a Russell Wilson, Trey Lance? You got some solid guys in this tier with upside. Not too worried about that. Running backs, we have 3. So me personally, I'm not sold on Tyreek Hill being worth that. So I do want a safer pick. I was thinking between Michael Thomas, Gabe Davis. Rashad Bateman's great. I don't know that the kind of upside to be like a top 10 wide receiver, top 12-ish wide receiver is there, whereas at least on a weekly basis, I think Gabriel Davis has higher upside. Season long, he might be a little less consistent compared to Rashad Bateman, and Michael Thomas is a little bit injured right now. So we will draft Gabe Davis. We'll get a couple of... We went kind of strong with the running back, so we'll just fill that out. Oh, nice. So I think we're going to allow teams to take a second quarterback or tight end if they really wish to at this point in the draft. I don't think they will. So I really do like the Christian Kirk. Once again, some more upside to that wide receiver core. And then Dameon Pierce, a guy that I just really do... think I don't know that he's going underappreciated. I just think there's a good chance that he outproduces this kind of draft position. Looking back at the draft board now, Tyreek Hill, Gabriel Davis, Michael Thomas, Christian Kirk, high upside. Christian McCaffrey, A.J. Dillon, Josh Jacobs, Dameon Pierce. I like them if they can stay healthy here and here. Little concern to the usage for Josh Jacobs based on some of the information coming out of actually that ESPN article that I referenced. But I think that's maybe not understanding the system that will be run in Las Vegas. There should be plenty of usage. Definitely like one guy more than the rest in case I just need a filler. So we will take Darrell Henderson, and this kind of feels like an upside squad. So we will take our quarterback with Trey Lance. As far as Trey Lance goes, he may fall short of some sort of upside, but I think a Jalen Hurts-esque kind of year, and just with a little less experience under his belt, so a little less passing yardage, is definitely within the realm of possibilities for him. Don't care for, what are they suggesting here? Another quarterback. I don't love going to quarterback. If you do, wouldn't be too bad to pair a Tom Brady with Trey Lance. However, I think you're just fine filling in all the way down to a Matt Ryan, a Jameis Winston, a Daniel Jones type guy in with that spot, even a Baker Mayfield if you believe in that. Do we want to strengthen that running back in case of injury? We can't take a backup here. There is a backup. So, favorite backup would be for Josh Jacobs, which is Zamir White, Let's just see. In this area of the draft, I think we can risk it. So now I'm going to... Christian Watson and Jalen Tolbert happen to have the highest upside to me. Isaiah McKenzie could be... I don't know if I want another same... Did I take Gabe Davis? Yeah, it would be a bad type of, in case Gabe Davis were to get injured type guy. We're going upside with this squad. I'm going to take Christian Watson, fill out that wide receiver core with another couple of upside guys in case some of this doesn't work out. And at that point, we're feeling pretty confident. Zamir White goes one pick in front of my last pick. How beautiful. Got a tight end, got a quarterback. So, at this point, let's nab up one of the top defenses. Sure thing, why not? Going with the rankings, I do have Indianapolis and the Green Bay Packers as higher teams that I would prefer. And let's make this some strengths for us between Justin Tucker and San Fran. Should not be a weakness there. Now let's see what happens at running back. Well, that works out nicely. So we can protect our number 1 pick right at the end of the draft here with Deonta Foreman. Actually like that as a strategy. If you're taking Christian McCaffrey with one of those first 3 picks, you can get Deonta Foreman right at the end of the draft, protect that, and I don't see why not. Definitely one of the better upside options at that point in the draft based on consensus rankings. So here is the team, whatever, B+, who cares. Trey Lance in at quarterback. I like it. Are you the most confident about it going into the season? No, there's some risk there, but nice thing about rushing quarterbacks is that those rushing yardage can really give you a nice, safe floor, which is really just the strength of quarterbacks in general. So all the better if you can take advantage of that strength, being a strength of that position. Then we got Christian McCaffrey, A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon should be a fine, standard, like RB2. And get you, I would say very rarely, get you RB3 numbers and pretty rarely be an RB1 outside of a couple games where maybe he gets 2 touchdowns, we'll say. And then Josh Jacobs, much better offense. So with that bad news for Josh Jacobs based on the beat writer there, I actually did not move him in my rankings at all because there is just enough touchdown upside in that offense that he could easily get a little less work compared to maybe what some people think he's going to get. And I think I split up the running back work fairly close to like how New England split theirs up in the past. And but he could easily offset that with some nice touchdown upside being just in a better offense. Got my number 1 tight end. We have a top 3 type defense according to consensus rankings. The number 1 kicker according to consensus. So those just shouldn't be weaknesses is the main thing there. Strength here. Michael Thomas could easily be a flex play anyways here. Same with Christian Kirk. I would assume Dameon Pierce could be a starter / flex. Darrell Henderson probably won't be trustworthy on a week in and week out basis, but I do think that he will have a floor amount of work, especially in the passing game, which is nice for full PPR or half PPR in this case. Just helpful for that floor. And then some upside, wide receivers, and we protected our running backs a little bit, so we should never be in trouble with getting 2 running backs out there. Do we need to try? So we'll just go no tight end next, early. Same things, same settings, same everything. We're just going to start out with Christian McCaffrey right off the top. Fill in whoever you want as your RB1 there. Look at that. Mark Andrews didn't even make it for me to think about taking. do like Mike Evans at this point. So we're going to take 2 wide receivers. My top 2 would be Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, and it's not consensus. So we'll just meet in the middle here, and we'll do a Mike Evans and a Keenan Allen. 0 RB this biatch to an extent. Really don't like Mike Williams, but if you do, could do that. Allen Robinson could be a great buy. A lot of similarity in wide receivers, so this would probably be a good chance to take a high-end quarterback, but we don't want to do that in this draft. So what do we got for running backs? I think I have an idea. What we're going to do is we're going to take J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, knowing that late draft, we can take Mike Davis, Zamir White, and Deontay Foreman. We come back around, we'll take at least 1 wide receiver. Let's strike... Let's take 2 wide receivers. Let's see how this ends up looking. So right now, this is the team. Gabriel Davis, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. I almost wonder... Well, we'll go with... so I would probably take Tony Pollard over Chase Edmonds. But take a Chase Edmonds here. See, here's the thing about running back. There's so many late that are decent. So we know we like Tyler Lockett. We're just going to call that a day for our wide receivers on this squad. Because if we go 3 more running backs, a defense, a tight end, a quarterback, a kicker. We'll take a tight end now. We'll take a quarterback. We'll take 2 late quarterbacks. So we'll just go with pick your favorite quarterback at this point in the draft. Nothing wrong with Tom Brady. Instead of 2 late quarterbacks, we'll take 2 right here. Get ourselves 2 mid kind of quarterback guys. And then we'll start. Get Zamir White. Probably, I assume Mike Davis might start to climb up draft charts. Thing is, J.K. Dobbins may not be ready week 1. Gus Edwards is out for the first several weeks. So we will protect that. Only lost out on 1 DST throughout that time period. Once again, could take San Fran, Indianapolis. Let's see what the experts think of those with Green Bay. Don't understand this. We'll just go with the consensus number 1 DST. We can grab a kicker before everyone and have some faith that Deontay Foreman will make it. So they like this draft. I don't know how I feel about that. So this is a solid way to go, especially if you want a low maintenance team. Christian McCaffrey, and if he goes down, you have a backup. J.K. Dobbins, if he goes down, you have a backup. Or if he's not ready to start the year. That is right there is probably going to be our most flexible spot on this roster, along with having 2 quarterbacks. You could always, I don't think quarterbacks are a tradable property, but you could always drop one if at some point in the season if you need to pick up somewhere else. But the nice thing is you shouldn't, hopefully, be in a position where you are struggling to get a running back on the field. You have your 1 extra guy in Chase Edmonds to really lock down your starting 3 in J.K. Dobbins, Christian McCaffrey, and Josh Jacobs. With all of their backups, we have 2 solid quarterbacks to choose from. Choose your matchups. Maybe take advantage of that. And at wide receiver, this is the most interesting part of this one. So, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, solid, good guys on good offenses. Gabriel Davis, another upside dude, and Tyler Lockett. In a 2 wide receiver league, that's all you need. How would I feel about bringing this roster to battle? Like the starters, I would personally just have another wide receiver instead of, and I would probably have Matt Stafford over Tom Brady would be my difference there. interesting to look at that. I don't know what strategy you would call that. It wasn't like a value strategy. Alright, we can still take Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry, whoever you want with the top 2 picks. We are now drafting from the second spot. See if there's... I don't know that there should be any major differences. So, strategy-wise, I'm just going to go with a value. Let's see here. So my main concern with Debo would be that he's probably going to be rushing the ball a little bit flaky. You got 2 guys who are a bit of injury concerns. So we don't want James Conner. Zeke Elliott's coming off that year. We're going to match Breece Hall with Christian McCaffrey. Because if anything, Christian McCaffrey should have a hot start to the season, and Breece Hall may take a week or 3 to get up there. George Kittle's, there's just some concern with the system and the quarterback in there. They're going to be just a few less passes per game, which might hurt. Just keep him from being a big advantage at the tight end position, which is really the only reason to take tight end early. I do like A.J. Dillon for this squad. Somebody who can come in week 1. He's not injured preseason. Like Elijah Mitchell's just coming back from injury at this point, so that's just a little concerning. So Allen Robinson, not really some sort of injury risk. He is on a high-scoring offense. There's all the upside in the world. Could definitely behave like a fringe wide receiver 1, but definitely a solid wide receiver 2. So we'll just be looking for some upside a little bit later with the wide receivers, and I think we will just think about strength, keeping that running back core as a strength. Miles Sanders is an injury risk. That is the only reason I don't like him here. Yeah, I have Clyde 1 spot ahead of Chase Edmonds. We'll just hope Clyde gets into the end zone a couple more times this season. But whatever the case, once again, sort of a solid floor at least if we need at the running back, especially early season as maybe Breece Hall gets his feet under him. So we'll take that and maybe play some matchups between those 4. And we'll take another solid. So we're just kind of looking for solid guys at this point. I think we'll get some more value here with Goddard. Well, you know what? I like Dameon Pierce. He's the last of that breed, and we've got a few. Now, the question would be, and here's where this is nice to see. So, like a 70% chance that Goddard makes it. So, it looks like rounds 9 and 10 are not like a hot spot for the tight ends to be taken yet. So, we'll take a little bit of a risk and push that back, but we do want one of those better tight ends-ish. But we need to get some upside at the wide receiver here. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is my upside dude. So in case you haven't seen, I don't understand why you would take Sky Moore against Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Sky Moore should not be on the field, especially for this squad. We'll take the guy who's probably the wide receiver. Well, the wide receiver 2, but the Tyreek Hill type replacement in that offense. I would look at Michael Gallup with this squad. Actually, this would probably be a good wide receiver core to put Michael Gallup on, because Debo shouldn't get in. Hopefully he doesn't get injured week 1. So I like that. I like Jarvis Landry 2 there. And we need our tight end. So I like Goddard more. He made it to us. Awesome. What a value. Let's just get ourselves one more running back option if available. Darrell Henderson. Do like that. Although, do we want Madison to hang on to in case of injury? It's basically, do we trust Christian McCaffrey, A.J. Dillon, C.H., Dameon Pierce to be able to fill up 2 spots for a while? Yeah, probably. We need a potential flex because we are not set 100% on wide receiver. Tell you what, the last thing we want is to create a weakness on a roster that if it stays healthy, if things turn out could be real nice. So let's go for it all. And we'll take Russell Wilson in this one. Not a lot to be concerned about there. Like the upside compared to Tom Brady, and he's an experienced compared to Trey Lance. We want something that we can trust on this squad, because although we're not overly concerned, there are some leaps of faith we are taking. Question is, did a running back of sorts make it? Don't like J.D. McKissick at all. He might not even have a role if Gibson can take that. Let's take another risk at that running back spot, and here we go. This is what we wanted a little bit late with some of our wide receivers. So Jahan Dotson should be a nice value pick, and we'll probably want another wide receiver and defense. So let's see here. Well, we'll go wide receiver because I like the Green Bay Packers just as much on defense, so maybe. Marvin Jones like, Van Jefferson like. We want upside though, so that's a Jalen Tolbert is an upside swing. David Bell would be a floor swing. Alec Pierce is an upside. Isaiah McKenzie's probably a floor. Should have some huge games. This feels like an all or everything type roster. Well, let's take the safe pick, whatever. But Alec Pierce is right in that conversation with Jalen. I actually kind of feel like he might be safer, but with less of upside. We didn't even lose out on a DST in those 3 picks, so we'll do that. If you don't need to draft a kicker in your draft, I think you finish this draft up with Tua, because that is some nice upside to be had. Yeah, there's no... What I was just checking for was to see if there's a quarterback to be had that would stack with the team in some sort of way, but we will take the best quarterback. Holy loved him. So this is pretending that you don't need a kicker. There's a nice guy like Tua to back up that Russell decision. Lots of upside with Tua. Could probably just play it's potential. There is potential that you could play the matchups between these two. Really, one thing I like about this roster is the flexibility from Tyler Algier down to Tua here of being able to churn that roster early on in the waiver wire because of some of these just sitting back and taking the value of a Dallas Goedert, taking the value of a Russell Wilson, even though we backed him up. Could have taken probably Alec Pierce again here with this late spot too, to just really bolster up that wide receiver core if we don't love what we have there. Could have taken a handcuff to hold on to at least until like game day of the week 1 and then switch that out for something else. This is probably my favorite roster out of what we've done. Starting roster. It's a high upside, risky-ish roster. I think this explains this roster pretty well. We got 2 sleepers here and a few steals in the draft to just round out some otherwise good but potentially, scary-ish picks in a couple of ways. Draft from the second spot, and we'll go quarterback and tight end strong. Just want to see what that will look like. So we wanted to go quarterback, tight end strong. A tight end got taken. I have Nick Chubb pretty highly ranked. So in this situation, since Mark Andrews got taken, we'll go with Nick Chubb. And let's just see how this looks, how this works out. So right out the bat, if this was something you wanted to do roughly, problems that I see are, if Mark Andrews doesn't make it to you here, you're reaching a little bit for Kyle Pitts, and right here could have probably waited, I think, for a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, but that is part of if you believe these are like the top 3 quarterbacks, if you think Justin Herbert's in that conversation, then hey, you got him. Okay, so I'm looking at the board right here. Just went back-to-back wide receiver. Was thinking about going running back, but really, when I look at I know not all of these are getting taken, and I like some of the names in here. So alright, so let's catch up on my last 3 picks. I ended up changing my mind while looking at those wide receivers, just thinking that the upside of some guys later are more just as attractive as the somewhat expectations of a lot of these guys. Although Hunter Renfrow, I may have taken had I seen that name there. Maybe. But took Kareem Hunt, bit of a handcuff, he's been usable otherwise anyways, nice backup, but I wanted to strengthen, I just wanted that handicap to Nick Chubb a little bit because we're going to end up taking some stabs for this wide receiver, so we want to be protected here at the running back position, which is going to be why I end up taking Ken Walker. Think that with that protection, we can get through a few weeks where Kenny will probably, I think, end up taking over the number 1 running back spot on that team, but he may not be starting the season healthy due to hernia surgery. And then we started taking some upside stabs here with Christian Kirk there. I'm sitting here looking at this roster after I just took Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and TJ Hawkinson's still on the board. Now, the running backs are somewhat depleted with a lot of names that I like, but I don't love for this team specifically because of some of my concerns. So I'm not overly picky on who I get out of them, as it's just going to be looking for more of guys where if an injury occurs, they're going to be helpful. So I'm thinking, since I may be a little thin at wide receiver and running back both, why not shore up my tight end spot, as well as give myself another option at the in the flex spot. Now, if this was a 3 wide receiver league, I would be nabbing up wide receiver there for sure. I think I already see a target for the upside. Robbie Anderson, the only thing about Carolina, they brought in like Rashard Higgins, who I know has been reported to be potentially losing some work. Robbie Anderson would be losing some work to Rashard Higgins. I liked Rashard Higgins being added there. So looking at this, Khalil Herbert, what's your injury? Do we want more of that? Not like Raheem Mostert's Mr. We need some guys. So we'll take Khalil. Give us some options if there's injuries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs. And Zamir. All right, so here is how we finished out that draft right over here. Right over here, we ended up doing that tight end and then grabbed Khalil Herbert, Zamir White. I think those would be on here. So finished it out with Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers defense, and Rodrigo. So pure upside pick with Christian Watson. There were other options too there still, so whoever your upside options are at that point, I like adding that to this roster of upside wide receivers. Might as well lean into that, in my opinion. And Allen Robinson sitting there as not necessarily an upside guy, except for the fact that he should be solid week in and week out in that offense. And took the Green Bay Packers defense over Indianapolis Colts in this situation purely because of the concerns that there may be some weeks, especially early on in the year, especially if like Michael Thomas is injured coming into week 1 or something like that, that I might need more upside. And although Indianapolis, I think I have them as my number 1 DST, I don't think they have as much upside on a weekly basis, any blow-up potential. And Green Bay Packers, I think, have the very easily could be the number one DST anyways. So I just took a stab at them, just thinking that there's a higher chance that they get interceptions for touchdowns. So I guess this is liked. Going strong, tight end, quarterback. Justin Herbert at quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb as your running backs. I like them. I'm just a little nervous, if you couldn't tell from how I drafted, about Nick Chubb, and that's at least we have. But it's more so to do with opportunities for touchdowns and whatnot. So I don't love having two running backs from Cleveland on there, but it is what it is. I kind of love this roster and I kind of hate it. Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas as our starting wide receivers, but he easily would be comfortable, actually, probably. That's kind of how this, actually, probably it should be the name of this team. Christian Kirk, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, TJ Hawkinson, could throw Christian Kirk or Marquez Valdez-Scantling in their week one, and I would feel comfortable enough, actually, probably. And then we got Kyle Pitts, and the nice thing is we did spend up for Kyle, in my opinion, a little bit, but later on we got probably a good value in TJ Hawkinson. So in case something were to happen there, at least we do have a strong extra tight end, and we have a flex option here. We can just kind of play the matchups with this team if it can stay kind of healthy in this flex spot between the wide receivers, tight end, running back, depending on our opponent, maybe what we think we need that week. Yeah, and so for the running backs, we got Kenneth Walker, Khalil Herbert, Zamir White, just in case Nick Chubb and or Kareem Hunt fall flat probably, or Christian McCaffrey gets injured. Hopefully by that point, we have somebody that we can toss in. Let's start from the third position. Let's try a running back heavy from the third spot. So we'll start out with Christian McCaffrey. We'll just go with what they're suggesting here. Little bit of concern for the upside with Leonard Fournette, but whatever the case, should be solid at least this season. I think I talked about it earlier, Rashad White maybe coming in and stealing some of that work. And James Conner from Arizona sounds good. Maybe not the three running backs I would have necessarily taken. It might have looked more like Ezekiel Elliott probably and Leonard Fournette probably. Or like Zeke and Brees, I don't know. So going running back strong, we probably want wide receiver, but we could get George Kittle to try and get some sort of advantage at the tight end position. I think Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert have as much upside as George Kittle, though, this year. Something I like to do when drafting, I like to, if I'm drafting from basically up to this number 3 spot, I like to do little ticks for running back and wide receiver on my piece of paper for the in-between spots, just to see how many they have combined. Sometimes that can help make a decision. And one of them doesn't even have a wide receiver, so expecting him to probably take 2. The other has a running back and 2 wide receivers, so probably take one of these, but somebody should be left. So why don't we... Hold up. They don't both have quarterbacks, do they? No. We'll scoop up a strong quarterback. So what we're looking at here is that we're just going to go strong RB, which means we need trustworthy wide receivers. We don't want too much risk. Like Gabe, like Rashad Bateman, what do their ADPs look like? A decent chance. So my plan here is to just stick with those 4 running backs and pick up probably a few flyer wide receivers late, maybe a flyer couple of tight ends late, DST late, kicker late. So kicker, we could spend up for a number 1 DST to help give ourselves some sort of edge, maybe. And we want a top tight end though, Or do we? So here's something nice. If you have a place that you can stash a guy, I really like this for this type of roster. Now, we can stash DeAndre Hopkins for a little bit later on in the season. And we're still going to get one of our tight ends here. Hopefully Darrell, nice. And maybe strike first at second at DST. Yeah, we probably want another. Are there any safe wide receivers is the question. Jalen's pretty safe for week 1, so we'll take another upsider. We can come in, scoop up the number 3 DST. I'm thinking I'm going to take a kicker early and maybe a late flyer. So tight end. And Albert O is our upside, my upside tight end. So let's see how this ends up looking. Okay, so here's how the draft ends up going for this squad. We took a kicker early, like I think I mentioned, just to once again give this roster some of those edges that we were looking for from the Niners. Justin Tucker, given that we're probably going to have 3 running backs starting, want a little bit of that, just like having an even keel as often as we can to make up for any potential boom bustness going on with our wide receivers. But we're taking every chance that we can to get some boom and at least make us survive up until we get DeAndre Hopkins back as far as at the wide receiver position. And ended up finishing it off with Alec Pierce late. I love that. Number 2 wide receiver in Indianapolis. There's some good potential that he's just getting way underdrafted or not drafted. So, once again, whatever, Fantasy Pros. Who knows? Could be an F. So, Justin Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, James Conner, with 1 backup running back, A.J. Dillon. But we are keeping our eyes open for any time there's an injury to scoop up one more running back on this roster and get rid of any of this dead weight that we have from our wide receivers. Or if we are wrong on Albert O, we can just drop him off at the park. And at the first opportunity we get, basically we're taking the best tight running back to pop their head up off of the waiver wire is the idea. Or before the games go, there's any kinds of injuries. So up next, should we finish looking at this? I mean, I don't love James Conner. Like, I would probably have Ezekiel Elliott there instead. But then A.J. Dillon, nice backup. Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, Jahan Dotson, Jalen Tolbert, and Alec Pierce, all just fighting to get on the field here. Fighting with Rashad Bateman and Gabriel Davis. We don't have a true number 1, do we, guys? Until DeAndre comes back. So my cheat sheet says to go Justin Jefferson. So let's do that again, because I think I'll scoop by the early, but JJ or Derrick Henry, solid there. Let's try to create a more balanced team than I think I did before. So we will grab our running back in Zeke. A little worried about Zeke, but not overly concerned. And Mark Andrews made it around that turn. I mean, Mark Andrews over David Montgomery all day. Over Breece Hall all day. J.K. Dobbins 2 day. Josh Jacobs probably all day. I believe I went with the tight end on the last one. So let's not. Let's go. Keenan. Okay, so looking at the wide receiver, we know Tyler Lockett's not going to get taken. I don't think Brandon Cooks would get taken in there. Godwin. What do we want as our wide receiver 3? Love the upside of Mike Thomas, but I don't have him in the same tier. Jalen Waddle. I think we can come back around, take one. So, continue going with a balanced roster here. So I think it's pretty clear we need a running back at this point. The question is, we do not want... We already have a somewhat injured guy. Josh Jacobs' injuries, scary. Let's just take the fresh rookie, healthy, coming in. So I passed up on some nice wide receiver names, a couple of higher rated running backs to take Tony Pollard. Once again, just kind of protect that pick there. Because of J.K. Dobbins, I think that's good to protect it. And we will still probably look to take 2 more running backs. Wide receivers strong. Could use some help. Quarterbacks, there's been enough taken that we're not too worried about any getting taken soon. But we can get maybe an edge. We'll do a Dallas Goedert again. Just a nice safe guy. And only reason I actually did that is because I have Valdez-Scantling ranked so high. Otherwise, my suggestion, if you don't have Hopkins, Devontae Smith, Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks all rated lower than Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I would have gone wide receiver here and hoped for a tight end if you want to drop. Otherwise, could have definitely gone running back again here. Actually, it might have been a wise decision, seeing some of these names being taken in there. Not overly concerned with these running backs being taken to some extent. Not concerned with one of these 2 getting taken. They're next up on my list. So we don't want another Dallas guy, otherwise Gallup would have been a nice addition to this roster. Jarvis Landry wouldn't be bad. Let's see what the experts think about Jarvis Landry versus getting one of these quarterbacks on the team. Yeah, we like our running backs and wide receivers enough, so we will go for high upside, low floor quarterback and maybe protect that. Let's see, running backs holding in there just in case. Yeah, that's about what we expected to get taken in between there, so nothing too concerning. I grab Christian Watson here. I do actually not mind maybe a Sammy Watkins on this roster just because early season he might be nice in like weeks 1 and 2 in my flex spot over Cooks and Marquez depending on their matchups before he gets injured. But we're going long term with this team because it is a pretty solidly built team. So we'll kind of trust that solidness. Now, I think Keontae Ingram wins this backup spot over Darrell Williams. So I'm looking at this roster, and out of the running backs that are available, there is one guy that kind of sticks out to me as something that maybe this roster needs, and that is Jamal Williams. Should be able to come in and get me some fantasy value if I were to need to play him. I don't expect to need to, but not, Dameon Pierce. I could either have to double up on Dallas running backs like week 1 or use Dameon Pierce potentially blindly and trust how I feel about him going into week 1. So Jamal Williams at least gives me a bit of an outlet at the running back position that is there and reliable, a known entity, so to speak. Next question I have for my next running back is I'm looking between Mike Davis and Zamir White. I think nice thing about Mike Davis is I probably should be able to kick him to the curb after a few weeks anyways. And as far as this early portion of the season, if J.K. Dobbins isn't good to go, he also gives me another outlet there. It's that or such high upside with Jalen Tolbert. Yeah, you know what? We can always go fishing for Mike Davis at this point in time of filming. Should be available after the draft anyways, so if need be, if things start looking dire for J.K. Dobbins week 1 and we like that matchup, we can grab him. That brought us down to the Colts and Matt Prater for the end. Yeah, of course you hate this roster. So Trey Lance, Ezekiel Elliott, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen. I like all that. Dallas Goedert, I like that. Brandon Cooks, this is where you're going to start to hate the roster. Like the D, like the kicker. I like the backup running backs. I like the Marquez. I don't normally take 2 quarterbacks, but something about that felt necessary. Yeah, so I think I reached for Dameon Pierce. I did draft him in the 6th round. Probably could have held off on that. Yeah, I don't care. Don't care. Don't care what you have to think about those. Any of those, really. So the Wolf of Roto Street likes it. Things I don't like about this roster that I would change up probably. I don't think I would, I liked that first roster I did better. Going strong at the wide receiver, following that up with going strong at tight end and or wide receiver as well to follow that up. And that was at the 1.1, so it's definitely possible to do here to even a better extent in those top 3 picks. I don't mind having J.K. Dobbins. Just a little concerned, but then having Brandon Cooks and Dameon Pierce, probably don't want 2 pieces of that Houston offense, but fantasy producers will come out of it, just like how Brandon Cooks was way underrated last year. Most offenses have some fantasy production on a week in and week out basis that's reliable. Yeah, Brandon Cooks doesn't feel right. I think that's the main change I would make with this roster. Moving Zeke out for a wide receiver and taking a running back here. So if you're up front in this draft and you go wide receiver, I think for the most part, go strong at the position. My best advice. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. We will look at spots 4, 5, and 6 next, and then obviously 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12. So thank you very much. Do those YouTube things, very much appreciated. Hope you learned something, saw something that you might be able to take advantage of. It's always fun to tinker around and see how things go. So peace out. Love you. Goodbye.